Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. How are you? Today we're gonna have Skip Jansen again. Skip Jansen Part Two. How are you, Skip?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very glad to have you here again, man. Thank you so much
Yeah, I'm
again
excited. Yeah,
for
no problem.
accepting the
I'm glad.
invitation.
Thanks for the
How,
invite.
how's Florida?
Good. It's
Yeah.
been a little warm, but good. Yeah.
Okay. Not too humid.
Oh, it's always humid. That's the nature of it. But it hasn't been too bad. No hurricanes or anything this year so far. So keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah. Let's hope it's gonna continue like that. So
Yeah.
last time we were talking about your DP theory. I think it was a good show, man. Very good comments, very good feedback from the viewers. I think people enjoyed the conversation. Of course, there were a couple of trolls as usual, but I would say 98% it was a very good positive feedback.
Well, that's pretty good for me. 98%. Um, yeah, it was interesting. I put a lot of research into that and find out what exactly DP's role was in the investigation. And I think everybody knows what my original theory was back when I was on True Crime Garage and all that. But and it's changed since then. But I appreciate you having me on and let me explain it.
No, so but it was really really cool, really interesting, man. So today we're gonna change a little bit the subject. Of course, if the viewers they have any question about your theory, we can talk about that again. But today we want to talk about your involvement in the leakage of the crime scene pictures. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and why were you in the list of the contempt hearing witnesses? So
Okay,
just,
yeah, I don't mind talking about that.
okay, man. So just before starting, I'm gonna put a little bit of context. I I have to say that this crime scene leakage situation is kind of I didn't do a lot of research about that. I was mostly focused on the clients on the crime scene. I didn't pay too much attention about the whole leakage situation. So just to introduce the subject, um, I prepared like a small slide here, and you're gonna correct me if I'm wrong or not.
Okay.
So I think the whole crime scene leakage situation started with this guy, Mitch Westerman, who was a friend and a former co-worker of the lawyer Andrew Baldwin, right? My understanding is that he took pictures or photos of the crime scene at the Baldwin's office without his permission. Then Westerman he um, shared those pictures to his friend Robert Forson, who committed suicide sometime after that event. Let's say Forson was in Reddit, active in Reddit, and I think his nickname was Lordless Warrior. And Forson shared the pictures to a guy in Texas. His name is Mark Cohen, who distributed the pictures to the whole YouTube community and podcast. And that's what I don't know too much. Apparently, you were in contact with this guy, Mark Cohen, like in 2022, and you knew about the leakage even before the pictures were distributed. So that's a small summary. I don't know if I'm right or you have some corrections to make here.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I can really only give you, my perspective, how I was involved. I never met or ever spoke with Fortson or Westerman. I only talked with Mark. So that's my involvement. That's the extent of my involvement, and I can tell you how that all came about, and how I actually got involved in it. It was kind of somewhat by happenstance, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about that it was done intentionally to harm someone. And I think once you hear my side of it and what I had to do with you, everybody realized that's not what happened.
Right. Give me just 1 second. I think I have some problems with my microphone. I don't know if it's better now or not.
You sound fine to me.
Fine to you, okay.
Mhm.
Liberty Justice says there's a bit of reverb on cryptic speaker. Me too. I can hear something. Something's weird here. I don't know why. Ugh. Okay. I hope it's gonna be just fine enough. So tell us about your conversations with Cohen, or what was the nature of those conversations? I guess it was on Reddit, right?
That's correct. Yeah. They were for the most part really good, actually. Mark contacted me originally back in September of 2022, and he initially uh, brought us some information about a search warrant that had been executed at a place called Everything Computers in Delphi, and it had to do with some information that probably was it made Ron Logan look bad, and so I thought it was interesting information, and I actually took it to Tober, and I redacted Mark's username on Reddit because I didn't want anybody to, I didn't want to give away his identity, and so I took it to him and just said, "Hey, Tober, would you check this out with Barbara or whoever and find out if this is legit and all that." Um, so after that, we Mark and I probably talked from, oh, I don't know, September through April or so. And during that time, he mentioned possessing some crime scene photos, and I never talked to anyone about it just because I don't like I don't like sharing information other people give me, and talking about things about other just about other people. So I never said anything about it to anybody. But during that time, again, we talked about that a lot. He talked about some other things. He had this theory about geocaching and how this store um, in Delphi called Treasures in the Woods there was some connection to it, and it was really interesting. I thought the theory was very interesting, and Mark wanted me to see if he knew that I knew Merge Sheet and he knew that I knew Fig, and so uh, he asked me if I would take that information to him to see if they were interested in it. So I did. I took it to both of them. At that time, neither were interested in it for whatever reason. I guess they were set on other things. But again, I was trying. I liked Mark. Our conversations were always good, and so I was trying to help him out. And time went on a little bit, and maybe in May, um, I'd kind of gotten fed up with the case. Just some things that happened in 2022 that it kind of just I don't know. I was just discouraged about the case and discouraged about a lot of things, and so I decided I was going to leave and just walk away from it. So I went into my Reddit account, took some screenshots of things I thought were significant, and deleted my account and moved on. Right. Well, when the crime scene photo with the Westerman and Fortson thing came out, it was I guess it was September of 2023. Part of the information that was given was that Mark had come forward to Murder Sheet, and he had got him, felt bad about having him, took him to Murder Sheet, asked him what the best course of action was to do, and so so when I heard that, that was the first thing that kind of interested me about it. So I like I said, I'd been out of the case for probably 4 or 5 months, and called Julie Melvin, and I said, "Hey, Julie, what's going on with this and all this?" And she said, "Yeah, we talked about, the defense is getting blamed for leaking these crime scene photos and all this kind of stuff." I said, "Well, I may have some information that might be interesting." And so I said, well, I talked to Mark, and he at that time he was still on Reddit, and had posted what they call the Discovery Index, which was some work product from the defense, and also a photo of the F or whatever it is on the tree. And so I said, I used to talk to Mark, and uh, I said he said that something about having crime scene photos back in late 22, early 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, well, yeah, this information needs to be, we need to talk about this. So, it means that we need to find out what's going on. So I was like, well, and when I left, Mark and I were not on bad terms. It was not anything. I just, like I said, I was fed up with the case and just left. And so I said, well, we need, we talked about getting it, talking about it on a YouTube show or something. And I said, well, let me do something first. Let me see if I can contact Mark, see if we can clear this up. I said, maybe there's something, because our what we were trying to figure out is what was the relationship between the crime scene photos he talked to me about and the ones that were out there in September or October of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and created another Reddit account, and found Mark's account and went in there, and I sent him a couple of messages. Said, "Hey man, could you get in touch with me? I realize it's kind of a stressful situation and all that kind of stuff, but just I just like to talk to you, see what's going on." And then I never heard back, and so by then it had kind of spiraled into this huge thing, and uh, there were some people, YouTube people, who were wanting to have us on, and uh, I think Teresa at Criminality was just kind of getting her channel started, and Julie had been talking to her. She said, "Well, what if we go on her channel?" And um, so we decided to do that. And like I said, when I deleted my account, before I deleted my account, I went in and took some screenshots of things I thought were significant, and some of his comments were part of that. And so we decided to go on Teresa's show, and she publicized it. And again, our goal the whole time was we wanted to find out what was going on. We wanted to find out the truth. We weren't trying to harm anybody. We weren't trying to go after anybody. We wanted to find out the relationship between the crime scene photos he talked to me about and the crime scene photos that were currently out there. That the Westerman / Fortson ones. Well, so we before we were on Teresa's show, after she had advertised it, Julie got started getting some texts from an unknown caller, and they were saying they were contacting Julie on Mark's behalf, and that would we postpone going on the show and talking about it because he has a sick child, and so Julie and I talked about it, and we were like, again, we're not in this to try to harm anybody, certainly not any children, and so we said, okay, yeah, we'll delay it. We'll postpone it. And so we did for a couple of days, and of course, the other side of it was giving me hey, you need to go out on there and talk about this and all. So I was getting pressure from both sides. But um, so like I said, I contacted Mark. I had never heard back from him. It had probably been a couple of weeks or so after that I hadn't heard back from him. And I said, well, I guess he's not going to get back with me. And so we went on Teresa's show, and we before we went on, I told Teresa, I said, look, I just want to show him saying his own words. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I just want to show what he said, and maybe we can get some resolution out of this. Maybe we can find out what's really going on. Because at that time there was some question about who actually leaked the crime scene photos. Was it somebody from the defense? Uh, was it actually the prosecution side, and how it all got to social media, and who sent it to who? And there were 50 different people who had it, and it was just how all the things in this case blow up. Well, So anyway, we were on Teresa's show. We did that.
Sorry, Skip.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a little problem with my battery. Maybe my battery is gonna die. So guys, if if the show is off, please give me a couple of minutes more to come back. Sorry, I'm gonna try to fix that before dying here. You can continue, Skip. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, we went on Teresa's show and showed the screenshots, and like I said, it was just what Mark had told me, and of course it blew up into something bigger, and it was, oh, this was just me. It was retribution for something, some revenge to get back at Mark, and I never had a problem with Mark. Mark and I, during the time we spoke, got along very well. Like I said, I had tried to take some of his information and get it to the people he wanted to, and because I thought his information was maybe possibly legitimate, and I certainly wanted to vet it and with the proper people, right people, and see if it was something somebody could verify. And so I was definitely not out to harm anybody, not him, not his child, anybody. Uh, so, but again, it ended up turning into what it turned into. But that's basically how the my involvement happened with the how I ended up on Teresa's show and Criminality talking about leaking photos that he had discussed with me back in late 2022, early 2023. And again, we were trying to understand, trying to get to the bottom of it. We're trying to find the truth, understand what was the relationship, or if there was any relationship at all, between the set of the photos that were what he told me about and the photos that were released by the murder sheet.
Sorry, I think it was just in time. Excuse me, Skip. Sorry, I
No problem.
worked to find a charger here.
Yeah, no, I finished what you said about it. I just said that there was uh, everybody wants to make every interaction in this case negative and something they're adversarial, and it wasn't the case in this. It was just like I said, if I had been tried, I would not have tried to contact Mark, prior to us doing it. And from what I gather, and this is kind of ironic, he actually got that, and you could verify it with him, but he actually received that, or found that message I sent him recently, um, and and so all of that stuff could have maybe have been avoided if he would have found it when I actually sent it, or in that vicinity. So
Right. I missed a little bit what you said before, but just one question, Skip here. When you were in contact with Mark in 2022, I think,
mhm.
did he talk to you about the pictures only, or did he share the pictures to you?
No, he never shared anything. He talked about it, and he told me what the pictures consisted of. There was a markings in the ground that looked like possibly a tripod had been sitting there at the crime scene. Was one of them. A knife, a photo of a knife, some footprints, and then I think maybe some clothes in the water or something. But that was he described them, but he never showed me anything.
And that tripod was something that was used by the perpetrator during the crime, or
I think maybe that was the well, obviously we don't know if any of that's true, but I think that was kind of what it was leading on, was that maybe this was something that there was somebody had filmed or taken some photos at the crime scene. And he talked about a photographer that he was suspicious of, a guy, and he gave me a picture of a guy on the bridge, um, and there were other things involved, but that's pretty much the gist of it, was that they had these crime scene photos. It was there, and I asked him, who's your source in this? And it was a source that was supposedly somebody in Carroll County, who a disgruntled person who had been promised a job, and it didn't come through, and so it was retaliation on their part from that. You'd have to ask him all to talk about all that, because like I said, I didn't really look into that. I was just going with what he said, and like I said, the reason it ever got to the point where I did it, we were just trying to figure out if the photos he was talking about had anything to do with the photos that Westerman Forts and that whole situation, the ones that came out through the murder sheet in October of 2023. That was pretty much because it brought the problem was like I said, there was people were saying, well, no, it's actually the prosecution maybe that did it, and he's talking about somebody in Carroll County was giving him crime scene photos, and so that brought into question where the photos actually came from, and if there was a relationship between those photos and the other ones, then it made it would seem that that maybe the photos weren't taken from the defense; they were taken from or given from somewhere else. So we were just trying to get to the bottom of the story, trying to get to the truth. And again, we weren't out to harm anybody. We're not, like I said, during the time that I talked with Mark, I enjoyed talking to Mark. He had good information. We talked about different things. We didn't leave on bad terms. It was just me leaving Reddit and deleting my account and just leaving the case. So anyway,
Okay.
I think there's been a lot of things said about it, and most of them are wrong, which is kind of par for the course. But so that hopefully that kind of straightens out as far as at least it straightens out my involvement with it. I don't know. I can't speak to the other. I can't speak to Fortson, Westerman, any of that, and it's unfortunate what happened. The result of all this, that somebody took their own life, and I know a lot of people feel horrible about that. Everybody should, but my involvement in it is really only the only thing I can talk about. So.
And do you think that the suicide of Fortson was a consequence of this situation, or not?
Um, I can't say for sure because I didn't know him, and I wasn't speaking with him. But from what I gather, he was feeling some pressure from it for sure. And I don't know if that was what ended up making him do that, but I know he was feeling some pressure because law enforcement had come to talk to him and all that. And it's hard. It's hard to say what's in anybody's head. It could have been a combination of things, and that was kind of the last straw. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, it's just really unfortunate. It's too bad that somebody with children, the children don't have a father anymore, and that's terrible.
Yeah, for sure. So I lost you here, Skip. So you were trying to see or to detect if the pictures that were in possession of Mark were the same pictures that were released in September 2023. At the end, were they
Yeah.
the same pictures or not?
I don't. I mean, I don't. We never really. I never got a answer. For sure. I can. We can only go with people have told me. And again, my thing was, what are the odds that there's two sets of different crime scene photos? And that was kind of my thinking. I was like, the odds are pretty low that there's two sides and same kind of people are involved. And it just seems strange. And like I said, we just wanted to understand it. We just wanted to get to the bottom of it. And that's why I contacted him. I created a new account on Reddit and tried to contact him to find out, because I wanted to know. what exactly, how everything was, how everything stood. I just, it was, it had gotten to be a really big issue, and everybody wanted the truth out there. And I felt like that I needed to do tell what I knew. And I had never said a word about it to anybody prior to
Mhm.
that. I'd never said, I wasn't going around saying, "Oh God, this guy's contacted me. He's talking about crime scene photos." Because I was, again, wasn't trying to hurt anybody. wasn't trying to. We just wanted to, you know. And that was the first time I ever told anybody about that. He had told me about that was when Julie and I talked in September or October, whenever it was, about our conversation. So
Okay, so can you please repeat, Skip? So one of the pictures was that tripod that may be an indication that the perpetrator used that item to take pictures of the crime scene. Let's say it's a possibility.
yeah,
And
I think that was the suggestion. Yeah. Yes.
okay, and the other two pictures, that there were three, right?
Yeah. Well, I think four that I remember. Let's see. I'd have to look through those screenshots again. But there was a knife. There were footprints, the tripod markings, indentions, and a picture of some clothing in the creek.
Okay.
And again, Mark, you'd have to talk to Mark about uh, how all that goes together, if at all. If it was just totally two separate things and it's all a coincidence. Um, at the time, I was, we were trying to find out, because there were some pretty heavy allegations being laid on people, and we just wanted to, if we had information that uh, helped get to the bottom of it, then I thought it was our responsibility to bring that to light.
Mhm. What was the relation between Fordson and Cohen?
I think they were I think they were friends through, from what I gather, I think they were just friends through following the case. They had met on a social media platform, and started started communicating, and I don't I like you said, I think Fortune's name was Lordless Warrior. Is that right on Reddit? I've seen a lot of his comments and stuff, but I never I never interacted with him. I knew who he was, but I didn't. He and I never talked. Mark was the only person I talked to in any of that.
Mhm. And what was the motivation of Cohen, of Mark Cohen, to release those pictures to the
Uh,
YouTube community?
the which ones? The ones he talked with me about, or the ones he talked to, or the ones he gave to Murder Sheet?
Mm, both of them.
Yeah, I mean, I would just be, I mean, it'd just be conjecture on my part. I'd be guessing. I'll just go by what he said. He said he felt bad about having them, took him to Murder Sheet, and that was the first thing that drew my attention to it, because I don't want to say that I was skeptical, but I had talked to Murder Sheet about Mark back in April or May or whenever it was, about again, the geocaching theory he had, and this treasure in the woods, and I thought it was interesting, and so
What what
I was willing to you know try to help him out, and he asked me if I would, so I took the information to him, took him to Fig, and said, hey, if you're interested, this might be something to look into. At the time, they weren't, and so then a few months later, I see that he's giving them to Murder Sheet, and that Murder Sheet's talking about their a guy they know, friends with. And I was like, well, that's kind of unusual that they didn't want to talk to him back a few months ago, and now they are helping him out with this. It all could be legitimate and make sense, but at the time, for me, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm just totally skeptical about things, but there were some things that happened that didn't make sense, and we just wanted to get to the bottom of it. We just wanted somebody to answer some questions. We wanted somebody to tell us, hey, here's what the real story is.
Yeah. Can you tell us about Treasure in the Woods? What was that about?
It was about there was a it's a Treasure in the Woods is a it's a out kind of an outdoors store in Delphi. Um, I think part of the interest for him was that was next door to the place where Richard Allen played pool, and maybe these guys knew each other. And I think Mark even suggested maybe there had been something purchased, and maybe I don't know, there was some information that would be coming out or something like that. But it's a uh, it's a store that they do. But they also did some like catering. They did. It was kind of an unusual store. They also do like uh, they do meat processing. They process deer and I think other wild game and stuff. And so um, that was part of it too. I mean, it was a fairly complex uh, theory, but like I said, there were a lot of things that made sense about it, and so that's why I was willing to go to those people and tell them about it, and um, and it's something they would verify. They would verify that I contacted about them, and I know Tober would verify that I contacted him about taking the information about everything, computers, and uh, that Mark had told me, just trying to verify some things. I think at the time he knew that I knew some people and were friendly with some people, and thought that I could, help him out with that way. And so I'm not saying that's why he contacted me, but I think that was, yeah, he knew that I had some connections. And so he, asked me if I would, and I had no problem doing it. Cause like I said, I thought it all was, it was all a good theory and it made sense. And so, like I said, I did it.
Who was the person of interest in that theory?
The person, well, at the time, he believed it was Richard Allen, but that it was. I think the reason the geocaching thing was brought up was because it was trying to explain how somebody would know the girls were out there. Okay,
Hmm.
and we know that theory's been around for a while, and we know that Kelsey and Libby used to do that together. So, uh, and that is one of the things about the case that's kind of been puzzling, I think, to me and a lot of people, is that it's a very remote place for something random like what happened to happen. And so, trying to understand how somebody would know they were going to be out there, and the geocaching part, I believe, explained that, and then uh, the treasures in the woods had to do with something. There was a guy, last name's Baker, who owns it, and he may have possibly done something unwittingly that ended up having a bad result. Okay,
Hmm.
um, and that's how the connection between Richard Allen and the girls happened. Um, was through he had something to do with the geocache, and maybe he had could knew they would be there and pass the information along. Like I said, it was pretty complex, but it made sense to me, and so I uh, I went, and took it to a couple of people trying to see if they were interested in looking into it.
Okay, so that means that Cohen he knew about the existence, let's say, of Richard Allen at the time in 2022, or not?
Say that again. Knew about what?
Uh, Mark Cohen,
Uh,
did he know about Richard Allen in 2022?
yeah. Yes. This was. Let's see. Let's see. We started talking in September. Richard Allen was arrested in. The arrest hadn't happened very long when we started talking. It hadn't been very long uh, after the arrest when he contacted me originally. So, yeah, that's what he believed, and so, and then, again, that was another thing. I knew that's what he believed, but yet he was talk. It was the talk, or at least the rhetoric going around was that the photos had been released, because the defense was asking somebody to ask people to release them to social media. I was like, well, why would the defense ask somebody who believes Richard Allen is guilty? Why would they? Why would they be involved with one another in the first place? Like I said, there were just there. That's why I wanted to find the answers, because there were just some things that didn't make sense. You know, I mean, if he was involved with the defense, why was somebody that believed Richard Allen was guilty? Why would the defense have somebody like that involved with them?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that was why, I don't know, just a lot of things. I was kind of in a unique place, and so it ended up I ended up having some information that was just, I guess, singular to me, and that's why I went to Julie and said, hey, this might be something of interest, and of course it turned into that, and kind of took on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm. We have a question for you here. Is Shane?
Hey,
Can you
Shane.
can you please read the question, Skip, and answer?
Yeah, it says, I saw Jillian live, and she mentioned that the old couple saw a man in his 20s on the property just off the bridge, just before the murders, dressed in black. Has she ever mentioned that to him? I guess he's being me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that, I think what she's talking about is the Liebert sighting that morning. Young guy, dark complexion, or whatever, however it was described. And I think she did a sketch. It wasn't a sketch that was ever released, but I think she saw him out near a mailbox or something. I'm pretty sure that's why. I've never heard that he was dressed in black, but if she says it, probably true. Just because she was certainly involved in all of that stuff from the very beginning, and has a lot of information, and so and I think most of it's valid, and so but I think that's the sighting she's talking about.
Maybe yes. So Shane asked Julie if that person was DP, and she said no. He was a dark skinned guy.
Yes,
As you
that's right. Yeah, dark complected guy. And there's been people have made assumptions about who that was. That it was possibly a young guy that was. Well, first of all, that it would possibly be Elvis Fields. Some people say, well, it would possibly be a kid named Oscar that was friends with Bree, and I don't know. There's never been anyone. There's never been anyone come forward and claim it was them. So I guess it
some
remains a mystery.
some people say that it was also maybe one of the sons of Brad Holder. I don't know. Just speculation.
Yeah, Fields, right?
Fields is
Fields.
it was the guy in the audience theory, but I'm saying that some people say that it was maybe one of the sons of Brad Holder.
Yeah, could have been Logan. Yeah, or not, but yeah, Holder. Yeah. Like I said, there's been a bunch of speculation about who it is. Nobody's ever come forward and said so. It's like I said, it still remains.
Mm-hmm.
Mystery.
So at the end, do you think that those pictures were like the leak was orchestrated by the defense or by the prosecution, or it was just what do you think?
It's a good question. I don't know. When I look into some, I always look at people's motive. What's the motive? Why are you doing something? Because most people do things for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it didn't benefit the defense to put crime scene photos of dead children in the public. I mean, that's I don't understand. I never understood how that made any sense to anybody. What would be beneficial? I know that it was like, well, they wanted to sell this Odin thing and show all that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you weigh that against the negative side of it, of putting photos out there that are so vile that people, I mean, that I think the general consensus that of belief is that they wouldn't do that because that would people would want to find they want to believe they want to punish someone when they see stuff like that. And so uh but without knowing, like I said, I'm not the person that can answer that. I can only speculate. um so I really don't know, to be honest with you. I can't give you certainly nothing absolute.
Yeah, I understand. So we know that Mark Cohen he gave the pictures to the murder sheet, and did he give the pictures to any other person or not?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, like I said, that's all I know. That's how I got back in it, was hearing that he brought it, because he said that, I guess because Kevin's an attorney and took it to them as for legal advice. I believe was part of the reasoning. Um, Again, that's something he'd have to answer. I can only tell you what I saw from my view, and I don't know. Yeah, again, that would be something he'd have to talk about.
Got it.
Yeah,
So
somebody digital is asking, Liebert are Tobe's in-laws? Yeah, that's correct.
that's correct.
Yes.
Okay, and does it mean anything or not?
What's that?
Is that relevant somehow?
Yeah, I mean that's. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that was. Like I said, there was there again. There, I just want I'm willing to talk about it because I know what happened, and I know there wasn't any you know there wasn't anything adversarial on my part. I wasn't trying to get revenge on anybody. We just wanted to find out the truth. And you know, I got blamed. Well, you were just trying to get Mark back for this and that. Like I said, I wasn't trying to get anybody back. I didn't have a problem with Mark. I liked Mark. I thought when we talked for those 5 or 6 months, it was interesting. And we didn't leave on bad terms. So there was nothing for me to have, to try to get him back or have any reason for revenge. Just we wanted to get to the bottom of it and get some answers.
Okay. Uh, what about maybe we can jump to the contempt hearing?
Yeah.
What what was that about? How did you end in that situation, Skip?
How did I end up a witness?
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's again, the crime scene photo stuff was how it was, what initiated it. That's how I got involved with who I got involved with beginning. And um, there was, the defense had been kicked off the case. And at that time, uh, obviously there was a lot of stuff going around, but they'd been kicked off the case, and it was because of the crime scene photos, and because uh, she would there were some people supposedly helping the defense and all that stuff. And so again, Jill and I were talking. I said, hey, listen, I may have something here of interest. I said, the prosecution hasn't exactly been acting appropriately either. And I said, I know of that somebody's been talking to, telling me they've been talking to McClellan. They've actually been talking to an assistant of Judge Gulls. And so, of course, that opened up Pandora's box, you know. And so I said, I got conversations that can show this, and it showed. I said, and again, because it just didn't seem fair what was going on. It didn't seem like what was happening in this. This was not I'm against the prosecution and I'm for the defense or anything like that. It was more this. What's happening doesn't seem fair. And so if I've got information that can level the playing field, I think it's my responsibility that I should show it. And so So I showed it, and I had, it showed that there was, conversations between an individual that was a friend of mine, and who had talked about his talking to McClellan and talking to Gull and our Gull's assistant, and the information specific about the information that was given. Um, and so obviously at that point the defense was very interested because they wanted to come back on the case, and they thought that um, this might be something that could help them with that. And so um, at that time I was willing to uh, hand it over and show them and explain, here's what took place. Um, and so anyway, that, one thing led to another, and then that information was brought up, and and then my name became. They asked me if I would be willing to talk about that in court, and I said, yeah, I would. And so went to Indiana, and told what I knew, um, and uh, and that's pretty much it. I Again, it was this. It wasn't the person who told me this. Now, this wasn't to get back at him or anything. This was not to. I know people think it was to harm him. It wasn't. I didn't even really think what he had done was that bad. He told me this back in uh, like May of 2023. Well, the contempt hearing didn't happen till March of 2024. So I had never gone to anyone and said, hey, here's what he told me, and all this kind of stuff. We need to get him. That wasn't it. That wasn't the case at all. I didn't think necessarily what he had done was that bad, because I knew that uh, the defense had people talking with them. Um, so his interaction with the prosecutor or Gull's assistant was, I didn't put any blame on him at all. He was just asking for information from people involved in the case, right?
Mhm.
I thought it was on them that you know that they were the ones that decided to give the information out. If there was anybody in the wrong here, it was on that side. And so um and they were, and on that side was the ones making the final decision on whether the defense was going to stay on the case or not.
Mm.
So like I said, I shared that information, and they thought it was relevant. Asked me if I'd come up. I did, just to clear everything up. I went up on my. They did not pay for my expenses. Didn't pay for anything, hotel, anything about food. Well, I take that back. The defense, one of the guys, David, bought me dinner. Bought us dinner the night before. That was the extent of it. And so did it on because again, when I it's like anything else. When you're faced with a dilemma, you have to make a decision. You have to make a
Mhm.
decision. Hey, what's the right thing to do here? Um, and so that's what I thought the right thing to do was. I saw what I felt like was an injustice. I felt like if there was something I could do to help that out, I would. I did. Um, and the result ended up, whether I had played any part of it in it or not, I don't know. But ended up with the defense ended up staying on the case, and then that we're here we're where we are today. So
Yeah, interesting. So that situation is over, or are you gonna be called again? Do you think?
uh,
Or
no, not that I'm aware of. I don't. I haven't had any interaction with anybody since then. So and I think that was just a one time deal. I happened to have, again, it was kind of a unique situation to me. I happened to have some information because of relationships I had, um, and so that's the only reason I was ever a part of it, was just because of that. It had to do with, and look, just to make one thing clear. I know there's been a lot of I've some people have come at me after me about it. Um, about screenshots faked, or this was, I was tricked. First of all, I don't even understand the screenshot stuff. I don't have screenshots. Okay. I have the entire original text conversation, so that's not faked. And secondly, I wasn't tricked during that time. The person I was talking to, I was he and I were working together on stuff. As a matter of fact, the day before he gave me this information, I had written a script for a one of his videos, a video he did entitled "Unfounded." So there was no motive to trick me, and there was certainly nothing faked. Um, it's over. It's done with. For me, it's a dead issue. It's the defense when it was a dead issue. Once it was over, the defense was let back on the case. It fairness prevailed in my mind, and so I've moved on from it. And like I said, it's just I I'm willing to share what, just because I never have shared exactly what my involvement was, my side of it before. So this will be kind of the one and only time I'll talk about it. Like I said, to me, it's a dead issue going forward. What the result of it was what it was, and it's over, and we're moving on. So
Yeah.
but I'll take questions about it if somebody wants to ask me anything.
Yeah, for sure. Can you remember me who was in the list of witnesses other than you? I remember Julie. I think Fig was there. Who else was there?
It was just Julie and I. I think Rick Snay was on there, but ended up not getting to testify. But Julie and I were the only ones that testified in that aspect of it, of the trial, or hearing. So.
Okay. Do you want me to pass through the chat to see if there are some questions for you here?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And at the same time, just to say hello to the guys. So Junior Johnson from Michigan, thank you so much. Shane is being very active today. Excellent. I think he said his fourth live in a row tonight. He must be tired. So thank you, Shane, for being here, man.
Yeah.
And
Hey, Shane and I used to communicate a little bit. He's a good guy. He thinks very logically, kind of the way I feel like I think, and so we had always agreed on a lot of things.
yeah, he's like the voice of reason here in this community.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he's very logical, as you said.
He
So Rosa, hello for Portland, Oregon. I'm gonna just here a question from Digital. Did any of the photos leaked by both sides have evidence markers?
Not that I'm aware of. You mean in terms of marked as an exhibit? Law enforcement marked them. I didn't. As far as the ones I saw, did not. The crime. I mean, the photos I saw were unusual looking. They didn't look like they were really professionally done. But I don't remember having there was anything marking them as evidence.
And were those pictures like a picture of an actual picture or a picture of a computer screen?
I don't know. I don't know. I know there was one that had the cursor on it, and that would suggest that it was taken from a computer screen. But the other ones, I don't know I don't know whoever gained access to the photos and however they gained access to them. I don't know how that was, if they just took the photos, or if they took a picture of them, or if they were done digitally, like you said, on a computer screen. I don't know. I don't think we haven't heard exactly what happened. I don't know that we ever will. Probably won't. Which is kind of unfortunate. That was the way a lot of things feel in this case. A lot of things feel like they're kind of unfinished business. It's everybody came here seeking resolution, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to go away feeling unfulfilled, even when it's all said and done.
Yeah, 100%, man. Shane, that situation was a total mess, so avoidable and sad. My microphone is really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was yeah, agree. Shouldn't have happened.
Katy says that I need a couple of good mods. I have a couple of good mods, but I need more. I agree. And today is a little bit shaky here in the chat, so let's continue here. Give me 1 second. Shane said that a lot of people knew about the F. Anyway, at the beginning they were talking about the F being carved, not painted or not
Yeah,
blown.
exactly. That's actually what Mark told me originally, that there was a uh, I told you that I didn't mention that. I forgot. Yes, one of the photos, in addition to the other ones I mentioned, was a photo of a F in the tree that looked like it had been carved. So I don't know
Yeah,
how I didn't mention that. I forgot it, but that was one of the photos he told me they had, which ended up being a photo they had, but it was not. It was different from what, I guess, from what he had described to me. So, but yeah, so I guess there were five photos that he talked to me about. And it was an F carved in the tree. That's right. I forgot.
right. Big fish, small pond. Uh, Mark didn't release the photos, he thinks. He took to murder sheet, and then Rick, I guess it's Rick's name, Rick got from someone else, is what I heard.
Yeah, I don't know how all that went down the line. I don't know how it was all distributed, disseminated, whatever, or how it originated. Got to social media. Um, I think I think maybe somebody, one of the YouTubers, said that they let it be, or let it out that they were aware of them out there or something, and then from there it turned into, oh, so and so's got them, and this is really where they came from, and they were paid for by this and all this, and so it ended up creating. Well, it ended up creating a firestorm, like like everybody saw. It was, there were talks of, you know,
Yeah,
whatever, money transferring, dark web. Um, I can't speak to any of that. I can only speak to what, what I was involved in. I was not part of the receiving of those particular uh, crime scene photos, and the ones that Murder Sheet talked about, the Forts and Westerman ones. And so I don't, I don't know how it all got disseminated, but I wasn't part of that group that was the 50 or whatever, 50 YouTubers or whatever. You know that that's one of the things about this case that's been really frustrating, is the amount of misinformation that's been put out there, and so much of it's intentionally, and I don't get that. Um, I know when I was back in 2021, when I was looking into, looking in DP and the DP theory and his involvement, and how BG might be, someone known to be on the trails who came forward, was considered a witness, um, all that kind of stuff. As I researched through it, I found out that so much of what the public knowledge was about his role, and what, I mean, one of the things that happened after we did the episodes on True Crime Garage was two emails were sent to True Crime Garage following the show from people claiming to be his friends, and they say, "Why are you saying that he got there at 3 o'clock?" And so the captain said, like, said, "Well, that's because he says this," and sent him some examples of, hey, saw, it got there at 3. He and this gal were there, and they saw BG at 3:15 and all that. And so, but their response was, "Well, that's not what he told us." And so I started getting into some of that truth about, okay, what I'm seeing on social media is not really what happened. And so that was kind of how how I formed the entire theory was about, it kind of had an underlying theme of deception, that whoever this was had deceived the girls. We knew this crime scene had been staged. He deceived that way. He tried to deceive law enforcement by coming forward because we knew there were a couple of witnesses, and so he thought he had been seen. And so that's how that all came about. But it was just the whole going through all the misinformation. And there was one particular group that was, everything they did was to steer away the truth, and I didn't understand it. It was it was like, no, here's what really the thing is. You're wrong. And as I kept going through it, I realized, these people are putting this information out there intentionally, or misinformation out there intentionally, disinformation. And so, and that's been one thing that's kind of been a staple in this case, is that the misinformation, and I don't know what these people's motives are, why they want people to deflect from the truth. As I've gone along since 2021, I've changed my perspective on a lot of things, and about where that information is really coming from, and that's what led to my theory, my presentation on what DP's true role was in the investigation. Wasn't that he was bridge guy. It was that he was a witness, and law enforcement's primary witness up until the first beginning of March in 2019. And for some reason, and I in the presentation, I showed evidence supporting it multiple times, and I don't know why that's been hidden. I don't know why that's that, it happened right before the sketch change, and that was always the thing about the sketch. That was kind of what I originally started looking at with the case. That was the first thing I went, because the sketch change in a case, it doesn't just happen because you have witnesses. You're basically discrediting those witnesses that you have by taking one down and putting up another, right? So some significant event had to happen that was the impetus for the sketch change.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when I looked into it, I realized what that was. And so, but the crazy thing about it is that nobody knows the truth. It's been so well protected, so well hidden, that nobody knows the truth about how it happened. I don't. Is that why is that happening? Why is that? Who does that make look bad? I mean, and there always seems to be a false narrative that follows any kind of change or any kind of happening in the case. It's like, oh, well, the reasons that sketch changed because Betsy Blair insisted on it. And then we find out from Holman
No way.
in his last hearing that it was, first of all, law enforcement wouldn't change because somebody insisted on it. But that's ridiculous. But he said that both Betsy Blair and Sarah Carr both had to be forced to be witnesses to begin with. I mean, does that sound like somebody insisting on it?
No.
So if anybody gets a chance, they should. I know you linked it in your community, my presentation on it. They should go into it, and I think you'll see what really happened in the first 2 years of the investigation and what led to the 2019 press conference.
Yeah, that's a very good presentation. It's in my community page, and thanks again to Dan to put me in contact with you, Skip. Coming back to the question of Shane about the man in black, I think I asked you that question in the last show. We don't know what DP was wearing that day, right?
No, don't know. That's one of the funny things about it. When I was looking into him, I realized there was not one single person. I even made bets with people. I put this out a standing bet. Anybody $1,000 if anybody can come up with proof of someone, with evidence of someone saying they saw DP there that day.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that $1,000. So that's unusual considering what his story was about where he was and when he was there. So that was unusual.
Skip.
Yeah.
$1,000 10 years ago is not the same. You have to increase to
Well,
raise
I
it.
figure I figured somebody could have at least found a screenshot of somebody saying, yeah, I was out there that day at so and so time and saw. I ran into DP. It was all this arguing couple and couple under the bridge, and then the times never made sense. Cheyenne said there was a couple that she saw, but they got there before her. Well, she got there at 2:50. DP got there at 3, so it couldn't have been him. But everybody assumed it was him. That was the kind of information that was being put out there that I was finding as I was researching this. Okay,
Mhm.
misinformation. When the information, if people would have looked, they would have found it. If you could have put 2 and 2 together, I mean, how could he be the couple that she saw, the heterosexual couple, if he that got there before her, if he got there after her? And the whole thing about, he saw FSG and all that. First of all, what he described, he didn't describe FSG. He described a guy with a scarf with his hat. FSG wasn't wearing a scarf. I mean, it wasn't like everybody at the trails had a damn scarf on that day. First of all, and secondly, and everybody assumed, well, that couple under the bridge, what FSG talked about was DP. Well, DP says he saw bridge guy at 3:15 at the trail crossing. Well, FSG was coming from the bridge where he said he heard a couple arguing or saw a couple arguing. How could he have been at the bridge and at the trail crossing at the same time? He couldn't have been. See, I mean, that was the thing. None of the story made sense, and everybody just bought it. Everybody just said, "Oh yeah, okay, that I didn't. I thought it was there was something wrong." I was like, when you have someone who's there that day and all the rhetoric around him is either false or misleading, and his story there's 50 different versions of it. Something's wrong. Something's not right. May not be BG, but his role in the investigation, he does have a role in it, or had a role in it for the first 2 years for sure. And so that was what led me to the latest information that I put out. And and again, it goes back to that, after True Crime Brothers about he wasn't there at 3:00 like you said. Well, he was there earlier. He told us he was. Well, we finally, when you figure out, it was always a big mystery who this gal he was with. Well, I thought we found out who the gal, or I did found out who the gal he was with. But then we find out that her grandfather said she got there at 1:30 and drove her own car and parked at the Freedom Bridge. Well, he claimed the girl he was with came to him, and they parked at the Mears Lot 3 and walked in there together. And she didn't see him because they were arguing or whatever. None of it adds up. But it was like nobody seemed to want to look into it. It was like, okay, well, that's what happened, and that's why, and it's one of the reasons why the timeline is off, and the timeline has always been off. I know the prosecution is trying to piece it back together, and they tried to piece it back together post arrest, which is difficult to do, but that and they focused on Sarah Carbo and Betsy Blair being the 2 witnesses and always have been the witnesses. That's just not true. That's not true. I mean, they're not being forthright, nor are they being honest about that those 2 were always their witnesses.
Yeah, that's something really weird, man. And as you were saying the other time, we normalize things, and some things are just not normal. But
Well, I mean, yeah, that's I hear people all I remember saying that was like people normalize mistakes and incompetence and ineptitude and look, no matter how much you don't like people talking negatively about law enforcement, people need to just realize that this case was messed up, and it was messed up big time by law enforcement. And the bad part about it is they've tried to hide it. And that's the part for me that's been most irritating, is that they've tried to hide their mistakes for whatever reason, whether it's, public image, or, I know people can justify, I'm sure they say, well, we don't want people to lose trust in law enforcement. So, bullshit. Just be upfront. Tell us what happened. There's no expectation that they're perfect. Nobody
Mm.
has that. You know, but just be upfront and honest about it, and say, hey, we screwed up. We screwed up big time. We had a witness that ended up being, you know, not a witness anymore, and that's what led to the sketch change, instead of all of this theatrics and production, and you know we know you know we know you want to know what we know, and all that. I mean, there's a reason Betsy Blair saw a guy standing on the bridge with the girls walking directly in his path, and they disregarded her sketch for 2 years. Not only that, she had information about a vehicle that they disregarded for 2 years. Um, there was a reason for that. The reason was because they went with another story, ended up being wrong. But they've done everything. They've gone to great lengths to try to hide that, and that for me, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, 100%. Digital is talking about the dog walking lady, the Greeno story. What was that about?
Um, I think that, in this case, there have been cases of multiple stories becoming intertwined and into one. I know that back I came up with the theory about the hitchhiker, and Fig and I did a live about it, and talked about a couple of years ago about law enforcement had released a bolo, will be on the lookout for someone seen walking near the crime scene, and uh, it was like a week after the murders, and so you know originally the belief was kind of based on the evidence markers they had put up, showing that they thought he left uh, toward the Freedom Bridge, via the trails toward the Freedom Bridge. I guess because that's how he entered. He had the young girls who saw him enter, so most people would exit the way you entered. Makes sense. So, um, but that story got intertwined with a story the Bolo did, with a story about a guy that had a broken down truck that happened at 8 o'clock that night. That a lady pulled over, saw a guy, went on Facebook, talked about it. Those two stories, those two stories became the hitchhiker thing, right? They were two different stories. Law enforcement was looking for somebody late in the afternoon. This story happened at 8 o'clock at night, but they got intertwined and they became one story. I think the same things and there's been multiple cases of that kind of thing happening, but I think same thing with the lady walking the dog. Um, I know there was a woman named Sarah Shaw who could possibly be this person. I don't know if this person ever got identified. I think even Betsy Blair hasn't been said she was walking a dog. So I think there's been multiple stories that turned into one,
Mhm.
and so the combination of whatever was seen or heard or whatever has become one story, and so I think that's again, another reason why there's so much ambiguity and there's so much confusion in this case, is because things like that have happened, and I think that's an example of it.
Yeah, 100%. Digital. Have you seen the unreleased sketch of the guy in the toboggan? That's the
Yes.
sketch Liberty. I don't know what's the guy in the toboggan.
Yeah, I believe that's the Liebert sketch. That's the guy, kind of thin, hollow face kind of guy. Some people believe might have been Elvis Fields guy. Uh, that's that sketch. It was never released. I don't know why exactly. I think maybe because of the time frame. I think the belief she saw someone that morning, 8 o'clock that morning or something near a mailbox, somebody unusual. Um, and so I don't know why it wasn't released, but that was her sketch. Yeah.
Okay.
And
He was.
another thing, the man in black thing, that again is one of those. It's become, it's like multiple stories have become one. It's like, we know that what the young girls, one of them describes BG as wearing all black, right? That's in the PCA. But there were stories about a guy in black jumping out of the woods, a guy in black walking his dog, uh, a guy. I mean, there's been a guy in black, and I wonder sometimes if it all originated because of the one sighting, the young girl sighting, and it morphed into all of these other things. Oh, there was a guy in black. Um, I don't know. It's just kind of curious that's the only sighting where somebody says there was a guy in black that I've been able to document, and so I think it's turned into a bunch of things.
I remember on the news it was this girl, Chastity Jarrell, and she was talking
Uh,
about the man in black.
yeah. Yeah, she was talking about the Man in Black, and she was friends with those young girls. So that could have possibly been that she talked to, you know, I think it was Riley that was the one that described the Man in Black, or the guy she saw at the entrance of the
Mhm.
trails by Freedom Bridge is the Man in Black. So that's probably where she got it. And of course, that turned into, instead of it being a description of what BG, that turned into being a separate person, almost like multiple people. And that again, that's why there's so much confusion in this case, because there's so much misinformation out there. Uh, People take one thing and say, "Oh, it's Man in Black." Well, that automatically became somebody say, and maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, it would be unusual for three girls to describe him one way and one girl to sort of say, "Oh, he was wearing all black," but they were always described. It was always described as the group as one person, and so I think it's just a description that turned into that, like I said, morphed into a different person. I think
Mhm.
that's that. I think it's as simple as that, and I think it got more complicated because people made it more complicated.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I come back to the same to this question of digital, uh, because I don't remember anything about toboggan. Was this guy using a toboggan or what?
Was he wearing a toboggan? Um,
Toboggan?
I, d- I don't know. That's what it shows him in the sketch wearing one. Um,
Oh, okay.
I mean, a head covering, and again,
I
you
had
know,
covered. Ah, okay, okay. It's my English. I was
oh,
thinking about a toboggan. Okay, understand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a head covering. It's a.
Okay,
I
okay.
think a lot of there was that whole debate. Hair versus hat, or head covering. Hair versus, there were a million different theories about, were we seeing Bridge Guy in the video? Were we seeing was that his hair? Was it a toboggan? Was it a ball cap? Was it a painter's cap? Was it? I mean, what color was it? Well, it's camouflage. No, it was tan. It was. I mean, that I think that's why that video is not of real use in any way, and so because everybody sees something different, and
Mhm.
so that's but so the toboggan again, if you believe that, yeah, the guy on the bridge is wearing a toboggan, well, and you got a sketch of a guy in a toboggan, well, it makes sense, right? That could be that guy.
Mhm.
um so I see how people come to some conclusions.
Okay.
So I think that's probably.
We have digital here. I was convinced it was Kurtz my first year in. Still could be. I just question everything because nothing adds up. Yeah, the Garrett Kurtz angle was really interesting as well. Huh?
Yeah, I agree that nothing adds up. But Kurtz, I mean, he was like the perfect person of interest. I mean, he was the right age about what they were talking. He had right. Look, he had the criminal background that would you would think. All he was kind of the you know there have been others, but he was, I never thought he was bridge guy, but I certainly saw how a lot of people did. He would be the kind of guy you would think would have been bridge guy. He had all the characteristics of somebody. He had recently, choked, killed a gal, choking her, and so it was. Like I said, he was a perfect person of interest. But that's the thing about this case. It's been unusual. It's so person of interest, POI, eccentric. Um, Everybody has a person of interest. I don't think that's the case in most uh, cases. But and certainly not. There's certainly not 100 POIs like there are in this case in most of them. But yeah, everybody has one. It's interesting how and everything, all their thinking and all the things they look into and everything kind of revolve around that. So um, that's kind of an interesting dynamic about it.
Yeah, I have a question here for you, Skip. Seeing that, would you do things differently in hindsight, Skip? Not being just your mentor here.
I would, yeah, I would. Uh, Going back, I would. I probably would have rethought ever going on a large podcast like I did. I didn't realize the scale of it at the time. You know, I guess I know probably just naive to it, but and it's not an excuse, but I had no idea I was going on a podcast where 400,000 or 500,000 people are going to be downloading it. When you're doing something like you and I are just sitting here, talking, shooting the shit, whatever. That's the same way it was there. It was just it was me and those two guys, and then that transforms into 500,000 people. I didn't envision that, and I probably wouldn't have. And being new to the true crime genre, I didn't know all of the rules, and I should have. And I would probably have rethought even ever going. I wouldn't have changed my thinking and what I believed at the time, but it would probably kept me from going public with it. I don't know that was beneficial in any really to, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. It's hard to say. I've thought about it a little bit. I try not to regret, go back and regret too much, but I would probably change that.
Yeah, Shane says that true crime garage episode was epic. I know it was wrong info, but the case needed it at the time. I thought it was DP for about 2 years. Yeah,
Well, there was, like I said, I thought there was a lot of things that again, when you go into it and you start researching and you create a theory or a hypothesis, you're trying to answer questions, right? You're trying to take all of these unanswered things, these questions, and trying to come up with an answer. And based on the 2019 press conference, and like for example, I caught a bunch of hell about that. I mean, about the DP theory, and I'm not trying to justify it or take up for it. But there was one guy who was there that day, known to be on the trails that day between 18 and 40. Okay, one guy. So that's not such an outlandish belief, right? So all what people don't realize is most of the stuff that was presented was based on things law enforcement was saying. I've come to realize that what law enforcement has been saying all along hasn't been right. I mean, it hasn't been. They haven't been. Like I said, they haven't been forthright about a lot of stuff, and so. Um, but that's what it was based on. It was based, and again, it was. I think kind of the ironic thing is that the people that believe Richard Allen's bridge guy is that the DP theory mirrors it in as far as the theory, the core of it. Was that somebody known somebody to be there, somebody came forward, maybe had been looked at as or listed as a witness early on, and and a lot, and I guess, the unfortunate part is a lot of people that were ripping my theory are the ones that are now saying, oh yeah, well, that's all you need to know that makes RA guilty. And so that's frustrating, but I understand that's part of it. And that's fine. I'll live with it. It's my bed. I'll sleep in it. So uh but yeah, I agree with Shane. There were some things that were that were well, they were suspicious. And so that was now I know the reason. I didn't at the time. And so I agree with him. There was reasons to look at him.
Yeah, man. Just looking for some questions here. Brian James. By June 2017, there was people photoshopping tree roots from helicopter footage and saying they were people. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of pareidolia. It's crazy, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the misinformation to try to sell a story or try to drive an agenda is crazy. We see a lot of it, and it's just kind of the nature of what this community is. It's you know, I guess people want to be right, and uh, but yeah, there's been tons of it. That's probably out of everything that's happened in this, the one thing that has been consistent and solid and overriding everything else is the amount of misinformation that's been disseminated. It's unlike, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's and you can and I've been around it long enough now that I can kind of pinpoint where it originated from. At the time, I didn't really know. It was just, but it's amazing. And you don't know from those people uh exactly what their motive is. Why, I mean, what is it? Why are you doing this? And so that's what, again, it is what it is.
Yeah. Shane, I will challenge anyone to give info for a sketch from 50 feet away.
Yeah, I think obviously referring to Betsy Blair's. Yeah. Look, I agree. There's one thing about, people, and Shane makes a good point, because he's probably right. But there's one thing that people argue about that's really strange. It's like, take for instance witnesses. You know, we know that law enforcement covets witnesses, right? I ask all the time, hey, if anybody saw anything, come forward. It doesn't matter how small it is, come forward. Because witnesses provide leads, you know, which leads to furthering the case investigation. And they're also always in PCAs or search warrants, arrests, whatever. So they're important to law enforcement. Law enforcement covets them. But on the flip side of that, there's this belief, is quote unquote, witnesses are notoriously inaccurate. Witness sightings are notoriously inaccurate. Okay, well, that's kind of true too. So you got two sides of a coin, and they're both true, but people argue them, right? So so you got both sides that are right, but they're arguing. So I don't know. That just kind of dawned on me one day that people are right about what they're saying, and they're talking. It's just, it's the same subject, but you got 180-degree difference
Mhm.
in how people perceive it. So I don't know. Maybe I overthink things, but that's
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
always trying to think and be logical about things. And why did this happen? Why do people feel that way? Why did And sometimes it's just, there's not really we're talking about humans. People are emotional. People are they make decisions on that. So you're always gonna have conflict. Even you're always going to have conflict in a situation like this, even when you're both right, and you're talking about the same subject, which is unusual dynamic, but that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah, no, but to me, it's impossible that someone is gonna despite the same person as the OBG and another one as the one OBG. Sorry, my microphone is sorry. Sorry for that, guys.
I'm I'm sorry, you were breaking up. What?
Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on with my mic. Uh, let me see. Hello, hello. I don't know. I'm gonna look for more questions. My microphone is giving me some trouble here. Sorry, guys, for that. This question,
Problem.
Skip.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts about the photoshopped Abby pic?
Um, I don't know that it's Photoshop. I know that it's. Look, I know uh, that I has done a lot of great work on. I think the initial he saw something was unusual about the Abbey photo, and there is something unusual. Don't know that it's been photoshopped, but he had the eye and was able and discernment to understand that there was something different about that photo um, to the photo, the bridge guy in the empty bridge. Um, we now realize that the photo is different. That it was what the in the hearings. What was said was that the photo Abby was sent. Let me go back. The photo Abby was not taken. The metadata showed it was not taken from her phone. The other two photos were taken from her phone. The metadata showed her photo, but it did get sent from her Snapchat. Okay, so the photo didn't come from her phone, yet it ended up being sent from her phone, from her Snapchat to the Kyle Smith or guy or whoever received it, and the other person, whatever. Um, so what's the answer? I mean, maybe he's right. It is photoshopped, or maybe there was another phone. Maybe there was another phone with
I
the
think
girls there.
I think that if you take the picture directly from the application, it's not gonna be downloaded to the phone. So there are two ways to take the picture. You can take the
Right,
picture with the phone and then you go to Snapchat, or you go first to Snapchat and you take the picture directly. So
right.
the picture is not gonna be downloaded
Yeah,
or loaded
but
to your
they
phone.
yeah, but the expert on it said that the metadata showed that the photo did not come from her phone.
Who was that expert?
That was oh god, was it Cecil? Cecil's his last name.
Cicero?
Um, yeah, his
Oh, Cicero,
detective.
Cicero, yeah.
Yeah, he was the phone. He was the phone guy. Said that basically that metadata showed the photo didn't come from her. Was it taken from her? Was it taken by her phone? Let me get my words right. Was it taken by her phones? The Snapchats were sent from her. That Snapchat of that photo was sent from her account, though. So you basically have two photos being taken that day from one phone, and they were sent by her Snapchat. Another one that was sent by her Snapchat, but was not taken by her phone. So that's what is the answer to why that is? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was Photoshop. Maybe it was another phone. We haven't heard anything from law enforcement about there being another phone. But I'm sure that if there was, that will come out. They'll get to the bottom of that. There'll be some resolution there. And we'll know why that has not been information that's been public.
Mhm.
I think it's a great question because I think it's part and parcel to the whole thing. I mean, it's like, again, you know, is if it comes down to that, why are things being hidden? Why are things? I mean, is it like, you know, here's one thing I wanted to say is that I know everybody on the what they call the pro defense or pro whatever the what is it the due process game. You know, McClellan's the bad guy. I see it a little bit differently maybe than everybody. I don't I don't I don't see. I mean, look, has he acted perfectly? No, but I think that he was handed a sack of shit and told to get a conviction with it. And he may have been even that there may have been some caveats added. Hey, we need you to get it. We need you to get it under these circumstances. So I don't blame him like a lot of people do. Um, he's like I said, he's not perfect. He hadn't acted perfect and done some inappropriate things. But it just seems like everybody has this case. But I don't see him as the guy who is the one who is the in charge of how this is going down. So, or he's at least been given some instructions, and that's hard when you get handed a case that is there's been mistakes from the beginning, and there's things that don't need to get out, and you handed it and you said, hey, we need you to get a conviction on this guy. This is the guy. This is the guy who killed the girl.
Yeah.
I see it a little bit differently maybe than everybody else.
Yeah, man. We have here from the 3021 from Australia, big supporter of this channel. Thank you, man. He says, I still can't see why DP was dropped as a person of interest.
By me or by just as in general?
I think it's maybe in general.
I don't know. I think I don't know that he was ever a POI in law enforcement's eyes. My belief is that he was a witness. He was their primary witness. Like I said in the presentation I did on that you linked on your community page, I show evidence that was the case, that he was up until March of 2019, and for whatever reason, I know there was the story about, oh, well, he recanted and he was the witness, but he recanted and he saw FSG. Well, that's not why he recanted. I mean, he didn't even. I've got text between him and a guy, and have the guy who verified talking to him, where he says he wasn't even aware who FSG was in 2020. So how could he have recanted in 2019 that he saw FSG when he didn't even know who the hell he was?
Yeah.
See, it's just things that don't add up, and they just keep piling up and piling up and piling up. And why is his role in it so? Why is it so important to keep that quiet? I don't know. I think we're going to find out, though. I'll say that.
Yeah, good point.
Well, I mean, doesn't everybody want to get to the truth? Doesn't everybody want to know the truth? I mean, I know it's like the prosecution's job to streamline the what he's trying to do. He wants it to be just, oh, it was Richard Allen, and there's no question about it, and there couldn't have been anybody else, and there were no other phones around, and there's no, couldn't have been anybody. I get all that. That's what they do. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more to it in the entire story than that. And the entirety of the investigation is important, no matter how you want to portray things. I mean, you can portray, well, the only witnesses that matter now are BB and SC and all that. The entirety of the investigation matters because it shows law enforcement's mindset, what they were doing, how they were feeling, thinking, acting. And that's important because it's important. It's important that the investigation is done properly. Like the end doesn't justify the means in a murder investigation. That's the reason there's procedures and protocol. It has to be done properly, right? If it didn't have to be done properly, just you wouldn't have all the protocol and procedures to follow. But that's the way it is. And for me, that's an important aspect of it. And some people want to ignore that. I don't really get that.
Yeah, I understand. People here are talking about Bruiser. I don't know why he passed away years ago. Rest in peace, Bruiser. A question from Isa Gatang. Skip. What is your thoughts of the video starting at the Delphi High School area and ending at the bridge in 43 seconds?
I'm real. I mean, I'm not I don't know. I'm not a phone expert. Yeah, it brings pause, and you look at it and you say that, what would make that occur? I mean, I really don't know. I have no idea. I don't know anything about phone. I don't know how whatever software was used to get that, whether it was the geofencing or whether it was the Cellbrite or whatever it was. I don't know enough about it to speak on it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's unusual though. It's strange. But there's a lot of things strange. I mean, the fact that the prosecutor wants the geofence data thrown out. I mean,
That's the thing I cannot understand at all. I think we lost Skip. I hope he's gonna come back. Gonna read some comments here. I can see that the chat is a little bit shaky. I know, guys, everyone has his own opinion here, but just keep it civil, guys. CJK, how are you? Law enforcement said they are under oath, so no lying. I hope no one is lying under oath. Agree. Skip, you're here? Skip, you're here?
yes.
Okay. I lost you for a couple of minutes.
Where were we? I'm sorry. I was talking about something, and I noticed it when I went on.
No, I think the last question was about the 43 seconds video that started.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how it started. Like I said, I just don't know enough about phones and how that phone data works and all that to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Let me check for any other question here.
That's Kelly. She said something about they had to explain the entirety of it to the jury to make them understand it. I agree with that.
Yeah, good point. I think I just did the whole. Yeah, I don't see any other question here. So, Rosa, why does the BG video locate in the area of the high school, then go to the bridge?
Yeah, again, that's a mystery. I don't know. I don't know about how phone data works. I don't know how the software being used, how that all, and I mean, I don't know enough about it to speak on it. I know it seems unusual. But again, like I said, there's a lot of things unusual. Why prosecution doesn't want the geofence data in? Don't want that report in. I mean, why? I mean, it's their part of their the state's work product. I mean, they that's who did it. They want to know whose phones were in the area. If you don't like the results, is that reason to say, well, that is that reason just to poo poo the process? Say, well, we don't like the results, so we're going to say that that geofencing is not trustworthy. Well,
I cannot understand that. How is that possible that the geofencing data is not going to be allowed in the
people use it all the time.
Cannot make sense of that.
If it's not trustworthy, don't use it. Why'd you use it?
Right. I cannot understand that. I can understand that the clients, the audience, whatever, they cannot talk about that because they cannot do the nexus or whatever. Okay, but the geofencing data, really? I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I don't know that anybody really. I don't know that anybody truly does. They may say they, I mean, like I said, first of all, if you don't think it's trustworthy, if it's not trustworthy, it's not a trustworthy process, then don't use it. And and then don't say it's not. It's not trustworthy just because you don't like the results of it.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a. Like I said, I understand that that the prosecutor's trying to streamline and focus on just certain things because that's what points to the guy they're trying to convict. But
No, I understand that the prosecution is asking for that. It's his job, but the judge saying accepting that, I cannot understand that.
well, actually, if you go by the definition, the prosecutor's job's to find the truth. But that's changed in the legal community in the last 25, 34 years, however long. It's about winning, and it's about because you got you're talking about you got elected officials and stuff. This is about reputation and winning and all that. It's not about coming together and trying to find truth. It's about winning. And they do, and that's the way they proceed, and that's what you see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really about. That's why prosecution and the judge always were kind of on side because it was all about finding the truth. But that was years ago. It's about finding someone you believe did it, doing everything you can to convict them.
Yeah,
And that's why it's become so adversarial. That's why it's an adversarial process now. So
there's a question.
That's another thing. It's another thing.
Yeah, right. There's a question here, Skip, and I don't know if they're trolling or not. If you are not comfortable answering to this, is okay. But can you read it and ask and answer?
Kip, can you answer about being with AS? Can you answer about being with AS? True crime is asking. AS. I don't know what
Anthony Schultz. I don't know.
I don't know what AS is.
Okay, guys,
can you answer about being with AS?
Guys, can you say who is AS? To be able to answer, we need to know who is AS. Yeah, me neither. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I know anybody named AS. I don't know. I can't think of anybody. I'll answer it if they clarify it a little bit.
So pain in the ass. Can you say please in the chat who is AS to be able to answer to your question?
Yeah, if they'll if like I said, if they'll provide some clarity, I'll answer it. I just don't know who AS is.
Yeah. When Rick pleads,
if somebody knows, they can text me and tell me, but I really don't know who that is.
Yeah, man. And again, if there are questions you don't feel comfortable answering, is just fine. Man.
I don't mind answering. I know this, like Sub Rosa says, when Rick pleads guilty, will his fans say it's a big conspiracy? Again, I don't know who's if he has any fans. I don't know. I'm not a fan. I don't know. I don't know anyway. I don't know if that's being, I understand the way this is I understand the way this has turned out. There's two sides and all that kind of stuff. But I think, that's a little extreme in terms of, he likely could be BG. No question about it. I think for me, it comes down to how much do you trust law enforcement in this case? How much do you trust that they've done the proper things, that they've done everything, the right things to get to the bottom of this and find the right guy? Here's the thing. You would think, based on the theory I had with DP and how, about somebody coming forward, known to be on the trail, that I would be the first one to stand up and say, oh, it's got to be him because that matches my theory. Why didn't I do that? I mean, first of all, I wouldn't do it because I don't do that kind of shit. I don't brag. I saw what I realized was stuff happening with law enforcement that I didn't like, and that's where my focus was. It was, I just don't understand. Maybe I don't know that much about this case, but there's one thing that's pretty obvious to me, that law enforcement has made some huge mistakes, and they've done whatever they can to try to disguise that, and that's another thing that, another thing I don't get about this community is, if I was 100% sure of Richard Allen's guilty, and I thought that law enforcement jeopardized a conviction by their mistakes and stuff, I'd be livid. But I wouldn't be livid at somebody on social media. I wouldn't take it out on somebody on social media because they believe something else. I'd focus my anger where it belonged. But yet we go at each other when I don't know. It's just I understand. Look, I understand. I get it. I get social media and I get all that, but there's just some things that don't make any sense.
Yeah, totally. I had a question from the Theory 21. Why did you drop the DP theory? I don't think you dropped it. Huh?
I was asking why did I drop the DP theory? I think there's a little bit of a misconception out there about how long I actually had the DP theory. It wasn't nearly as long as people believe. I did because I started seeing, as I researched more and more, I started seeing that there were some things that I started seeing that that his role in the investigation was something different than the suspect, and so that was the main reason I dropped it.
Okay. Skip, I think that that was all for today, or do you want to talk about anything else? I think we cover all the topics we were intending.
I could answer the AS question.
Yeah, let's wait just maybe a couple of minutes here to see if they're gonna provide us that information. I can only think about Anthony Shots, AS.
I was never with Anthony. I don't know. I mean, Anthony Shots, first of all, is not even a real person.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I don't know. And if somebody can tell me who AS is, I'll be more than happy to answer that question. I understand people coming at you and trolling or whatever. I understand, people think that's funny or whatever. That's fine. But I don't mind engaging that. But I need to be clear on what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, there was another DP, right?
Yes, there was. Yeah, there were. Yeah, there were. As a matter of fact, it was the same exact name. It's it was somebody that Anthony Greeno did something about it. About a guy who contacted him who had.
He allegedly confessed about the crime. This guy.
Confessed to the crime, and Greeno was going to take him into law enforcement. And I don't know the validity of all of it. I don't know if it was.
No. It seems fabricated.
I do know there is another guy with that name though, who has a background in some drugs and stuff. But it's funny. It seems like there's two of everything in this case. Two DPs. There's two Shelbys. There's two McCains. There's two this and that. It's just like Noah's Ark. It's crazy.
Yeah. So Rosa is talking about the Richard Allen supporters, let's say.
Let's see. Not being a member of the Richard Allen Innocence Project does not make anybody. Okay. I didn't. I don't.
I just want to say that the mistakes that law enforcement. Sorry, my microphone is giving me really trouble tonight. All the mistakes made by law enforcement generate sympathy for Richard Allen. That's the thing also. A lot of people have sympathy for Richard Allen because of the mistakes made by law enforcement. So I understand your point, also, as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, there's and if you, I you know, in my eyes, if you don't see it, then you're just ignoring it. I mean, is it? I mean, it does. I mean, again, we talk about normalizing things. Is it normal for a who's a guy who's now the sheriff on of the case to change someone's witness statement to get a PCA signed? Is that? I mean, is that's okay? I mean, if that's okay with people, then oh, whatever. It's not okay. I mean, it's not okay. I don't think it's okay. Not okay with me. I mean, if
Mhm.
I mean, is that okay with you, Cryptex? Somebody would change a witness statement in
Of
order to get a PCA sign.
No, of
If
course
that's
not.
true. So again, that's my thing. Well, I mean, why? We're going at each other, and it's got trolls and all this kind of stuff. Um, there's another place blame can be laid, and a lot of it can be, and I just don't understand why it's not.
Mhm.
I
And
mean,
anyway,
you can admit to law enforcement making mistakes and trying to cover this up, and still believe Richard Allen's guilty. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can believe that. You can believe both things. See, if for some reason people don't want to do that,
yeah,
I
no,
don't
and
understand.
regardless of the culpability or innocence of Richard Allen, I think he's guilty. Maybe not the only actor, but he deserves a fair process. And my fear is that he can appeal because of those mistakes, and he can get free like in the Stephen Avery case, something like that. So I don't know. It's just a matter of having a fair process, and then if he's guilty,
Right.
he's guilty. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Simple as
he
that.
could be. He could be. He could be. He could be. There's things that like I said, he was there. He was, he definitely could be. We'll have to wait for the trial to see about the times, all that, and the timeline and how that works out. But, um, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay to believe both things. Like I said, the end doesn't justify the means. The 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 process is supposed to be done properly. It's not
Mm,
just about getting the bad guy.
I agree. I think we didn't have the answer for the AS. So sorry, guys, we cannot answer to that because we don't have the information.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
Shane. I think Shane.
so Skip, I think I'm gonna finish the live here. Um, Maybe we can do a trilogy before the
Yeah,
end
that
of
would
the
be
year.
great.
Of the year.
Anytime. Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. It's always good to talk to you.
Did you enjoy the live the show tonight today?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. I did very
Cool,
much
man.
so.
Happy. And anytime, anytime.
I probably talked in circles again, like people accuse me of, and that's fine.
No, not at all. And thank you guys in the chat. Remember to subscribe if you're not, to hit the like. And thank you, Skip. Keep in touch. Huh?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, you too. I will look through the comments as the days go by and see if there's anything anybody wants to know, and I'll be sure to address it if I can.
Perfect, man. So thank you
And yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Thank you,
thanks.
Skip.
Yeah,
See
thank
you.
you, Cryptex. I appreciate it, man. All right,
Ciao.
bye.
Bye.